Wow, that's bright up here. Aloha, AMOS. It's my distinct honor to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Kelly Hammett, who is dual-hatted both the Director of AFRL's Directed Energy Directorate and the Deputy TEO for Space S&T. I am the Commander and Material Leader of Air Force Maui Optical Supercomputing Site, commonly referred to as AMOS. Our unit conducts AFRL's optical and supercomputing advanced R&D under the guidance of the Directed Energy Directorate in support of Space S&T. Dr. Hammett has a 20-year history at the Maui site, assigned to the unit as a major, and ultimately serving in my position as AMOS commander. Since that time, he has maintained involvement in the site, both technical direction and providing funding advocacy. He understands the value of the technical community's contributions to the space domain awareness mission area, and we are fortunate to hear his vision for Space S&T. Dr. Hammett, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Zing. Thank you all for being here. Aloha, Aloha Friday. We're here. You never know what's going to happen when you give me a microphone. Never know. Before I jump into my talk, I want to say thank you to MEDB for letting us all be here this week, today. 670 of us here on Maui, in person and virtual and hybrid conference. I'm going to just stop for a second and say thank you and require you to give gratitude to Paul Kervin and Darren Nishimoto. Stand up. Stand up. Our conference co-chairs. What a great program we've had this week. What a great set of interactions. I appreciate very much my predecessors from the government side, Colonel Roth, Colonel Felt, Colonel Brodeur. Nice talks, really entertaining, but I have the full resources of the Air Force Research Laboratory behind me. And in the words of Ivan Drago, I will crush you. So I'm here to talk today about Air Force Research Laboratory, one lab, two services. So the Space Force stood up in December of 2019. There were a lot of conversations about, do we establish another laboratory to do space science, technology, research, and development for the Space Force, or do we keep one laboratory? And at the very senior levels of the Air Force, it was decided that we would retain one laboratory. And the Air Force Research Laboratory would support both the United States Air Force and the United States Space Force. And just about a year and a half ago, we have a new commander that came into Air Force Research Laboratory, Major General Heather Pringle, and she established very quickly 3 priorities for us. And her second priority was one lab, two services, meaning we would, no kidding, get after the United States Space Force's S&T needs. And so that's what I want to talk about today. See if we can make this work. So this is what we've done for about 100 years in the United States Air Force, is what you see on the left-hand side of the chart. And what we've added in the last 30 years or so has been support to the United States Space Force. So we are one lab supporting two services, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of an introductory video here.
Lead, discover, develop, deliver. The Air Force Research Laboratory leads the discovery, development, and delivery of warfighting technologies for our air, space, and cyber forces. Our scientists, researchers, and professionals reimagine what's possible, creating tomorrow's technology today. This pursuit of innovation delivers solutions for our warfighters' urgent needs, creating innovative new capabilities for the Air Force and Space Force. When others say it's impossible, we find a way. We are the Air Force Research Laboratory.
Well, okay, so how many of you were at Space Symposium? Just a few. Okay, good. So this is the same chart deck that Major General Pringle briefed at Space Symposium. However, my soundtrack will be quite different. So while this video plays, AFRL has been leading science and technology in support of the Department of the Air Force for, like I said, over 100 years. So I'm not going to talk to all the bullets on this, but you can watch it. Leading in aviation science, a whole bunch of other things. The point of my talk today is, again, we're preserving one laboratory, supporting two services, and we have adapted to the stand-up of the United States Space Force. And in a couple of major ways. We have identified dedicated funding that supports the United States Space Force. Roughly 10% of our TOA, about $250 million a year, is transferred over to Space Force program elements for space science and technology, and it is controlled in what we call the POM process, the budgeting process for the United States Department of the Air Force through the Space Force, and so they can increase that, they can decrease that, they can move it around. What I'll tell you is in my dual-hatted role as the Deputy Technology Executive Officer for Space S&T, led our POMing activities for the Space Force in the 23 POM, and we were very successful in preserving our TOA, and actually, for the first time ever, getting several line items added to the unfunded priorities list, which went to Congress, and we actually expect some of that to be funded. So as a history rolls over here, we're now getting into the space age, and you can see all the exciting things that we've been doing for the last 30 years in Space S&T with MightySat, TACSat, Angels, Eagle, Mycroft, ROSA, the rollout solar arrays. We'll talk about that a little bit more. NTS-3, next generation technology satellite, essentially enhancement and replacement for GPS technology, online programmable software capabilities, spot beams, all kinds of incredible things that we are now doing for space science and technology. It's actually the Air Force's first Vanguard program. We now have 2 space Vanguard programs. These are essentially the highest tier of science and technology efforts that we are doing in the Air Force that are scheduled for transition and have the highest level of visibility. So where we end in the timeline, we ran through 100 years of history there very, very quickly. And of course, the next things that we need to do are autonomy, artificial intelligence, machine learning. We're doing that for ground-based systems. We're doing that for space-based systems. There have been a number of talks about that here in the conference this week, but that's where we've been. Let's talk a little bit about our areas of expertise. And again, this is all across AFRL. The reason I'm showing this at an SDA conference is in my role as the Deputy TEO for Space S&T. This is a new position. I have oversight of all we do in AFRL, and we have some dedicated resources, like I just said, $250 million a year of dedicated funding. We are transferring 700 billets of AFRL personnel to Space Systems Command to be Space Force Guardians. They will be reassigned back to AFRL for execution, day-to-day execution. We will keep our laboratory authorities, and we will continue to do the great missions that we are doing for space science and technology. But the most important thing that I'm supposed to do is harvest everything that we're doing across AFRL for space. So we have these dedicated resources. We have these, what we call the centers of gravity, the centers of excellence, Space Vehicles Directorate, led by Colonel Felt, my Space Electro-Optics Division, which includes Maui, Starfire Optical Range, and our Satellite Assessment Center, our Rocket Laboratory out at Edwards Air Force Base. These will move over to the Space Force for dedicated support and, like I said, palm control. They can increase these resources, and I think they will. So that's good news for all of you who are supporting space S&T. But we still have the other 90% of AFRL. We have a $2.5 billion a year budget authority, and there's a lot of things going on in sensors, in information, in other areas that we can leverage. And so we need to be very cognizant of those opportunities, and we need to pull those things in support of Space Force priorities. So AFRL is a global enterprise. We like to say the sun never sets on AFRL. We are in 10 states in the United States. We are global. Our Air Force Office of Scientific Research has locations in England and Tokyo and Chile. We are expanding to Australia, and there's another one. Brazil. Thank you, Sherry. Sherry, our director of AFOSR, is here with us, so helping me out with a little bit of that. The point is, we need to be globally interconnected. We need to be moving fast. We need to be partnering with all of you and academia, industry, and across all of the DoD to make the Space Force vision of a lean, digital, rapid capability development service enabled. So, just another cool set of slides here about the incredible facilities we have in AFRL. Right here, we have a supercomputing center at the Maui High Performance Computing Center, the Vanguard Center, but we also have one at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. One of my favorites there, the Starfire Optical Range. You will have seen earlier in the video clips of our site up at the top of the mountain, our Maui Space Surveillance Site, and the telescopes we have there. But one of the amazing things about AFRL is we do in-house research, from basic research all the way up to experimentation and prototyping, and we have these facilities that are world-class, that are nowhere else. And a number of them are space-specific, but there are others as well, you know, that are just crazy, and we showed some of those here. Our secret sauce, as always, is the people, and I'm not going to tell all the stories that were told here. I guess I'll point out one, Captain Jake Singleton, who was in Space Vehicles Directorate for a while, and then he had an international exchange officer tour over in London with Distal, and he led the first International Space Pitch Day that we had, and so it's really cool to be able to unshackle innovation and let these people go and do these things. One more, I guess, Adam Brand was the co-inventor of our green propellant that we have. It's called Ascent. Talk about that maybe a little bit later. I think Colonel Roth mentioned it the other day, the GPIM mission and NASA flying green propellant. This is a highly efficient propellant that's non-toxic and able to be used in both in space and launch type of situations. But we have great people, and you will have seen a number of them here at AFRL Detachment 15 and supporting this conference. This is the story about ascent, which is the propellant I was just talking about. So you have hydrazine, which is highly toxic, very expensive, very limited, and AFRL has been working on this technology for 20 or 30 years to build this monopropellant that is a clean propellant and is dual use. So like I said, you can use it for launch, you can use it for on-orbit applications, maneuverability, and just an incredible success story that we've had, and we have a number of these. I'm just highlighting a couple. So where are we headed in the future? I guess I will say we are, like I said, trying to bring all of these technologies. I'm going to show you some cool things in the air domain. We're after swarming technologies, AI-enabled air vehicles, loyal wingman, quantum computing. This is a cool one. And you know, if you can do this type of technology in the air, like Eric said the other day, swarming satellites is kind of one of the things we're very interested in. Space solar power beaming. This is an illustration of our Spider program. So launch a satellite. We invented in AFRL the rollout solar array technology, and then we have power beaming to the ground. This is one of my favorites. This is one of my programs in directed energy, Thor, which is our counter small UAS high power microwave system. So the challenge for us is to organize effectively in response to the stand-up of the United States Space Force, to align our resources, and then to pull from the whole portfolio to make the Space Force next generation challenges a reality. So we are inventing tomorrow's technology today. We are here, quite frankly. I made a point of pointing out Paul Kervin, Darren Nishimoto. This conference started because of AFRL. We sponsored it many moons ago, and then we turned it over to the MEDB folks to carry on from there. But it's all about bringing us together for innovation, for collaboration, for moving the technology forward and solving our challenges. And I want to thank you all for being here and being part of that vision. I will take any questions in the last 2 minutes and 30 seconds we have.
Thank you, Dr. Hammett. Thank you, Dr. Hammett. We didn't receive any questions from the audience, but with just 2 minutes left, I thought I'd ask you one selfish question. So why is the AMOS site here so important to AFRL's space S&T efforts?
Okay, great question. And yeah. So we're out here in the Pacific. We have an incredible site. We have incredible seeing capabilities. Best seeing conditions in daylight in the world. That's why the DKIS telescope is here, which you heard about yesterday. We're the third best seeing conditions overall. But the most important reason is this innovation ecosystem. And we are, I didn't go into any detail about this, and I'm not sure what's publicly releasable, but I'll tell you, things are changing here at the site. We are standing up a blended operational R&D site, and that will become official in the next couple months or so. We'll have a big ceremony. And the point is, we can bring our scientists, our engineers, our creative thinkers with all new technologies, innovations. We can test it out, we can mature the technology, we can evaluate it, and then immediately move it to operational status. And the cool thing about the evolution that we have coming is it won't just be at the site. For many years, for 20 years, we've been a contributing sensor to the Space Surveillance Network. We will become the first space surveillance squadron, and we will have oversight over all of the ground-based opticals in the SSN, and we will be able to transition those technologies worldwide. almost immediately. That's the vision of the Space Force. You know, we want to go fast, we want to do these things, we want to create and innovate, and it's just going to be fantastic. I'm very, very happy to see this evolve, and I have been pushing for a number of these things for many, many years.
Thank you, Dr. Hammett. I believe that ends our session.
Thank you very much for your time and attention.